What's up, everybody, and welcome back into Breaking Boards. Hope everyone had a great week 7 in the NFL yesterday, and welcome into today's episode. In today's episode, we are going to talk about the 2-game main slate over on DraftKings for Monday Night Football. We'll not be breaking down the individualized showdown slates, but we'll talk about just the 2-game slate on this video. So if you're looking for showdown content, please go check out some other channels. There's some other great channels on YouTube. You can go get individualized breakdowns for the Monday Night Showdown contest. But before we jump into the breakdown for the 2-game slate, I want to cover a couple of things that happened over the weekend and break that down for you guys and offer my thoughts on what transpired. Also, if you are uninterested in my thoughts or anything that I have to say before we jump into the player-by-player breakdown, I will not be time stamping on this video because I do believe that some of the things that I'm about to talk about are important if you are playing at DFS, even for recreation, really. I mean, if you want to have an opportunity to build lineups that are going to compete on showdown slates, on main slates, I do think what I'm about to say is important. So I'm not going to timestamp. I do want you to pay attention to what I'm saying and take it into consideration into your process as you move forward. Before we jump into talking about those things, getting the shameless plug out of the way here, if you're interested in additional content and you want to go check out my website, you'll see a QR code on your screen. You can click that. It will take you over to breakingboardsdfs.com, or I will pin the link down in the comment if you want to go check it out and go check out the site. I will say that in my opinion, I have 3 tiers up on the site. I have a $10 tier, a $20 tier, and a $30 tier. If you're signing up for a $30 paid subscription for the month, if you just looked at my betting articles last week, I went 5 for 8. So if you put $100 on each one of those, you'd be up $152 on the month. Pay for the $30 subscription, and you'd still be up $120. I will also say that I started recording exactly how much time I'm putting into this. I put 28 hours into that subscription last week, and I wrote 15 articles on that. On that subscription, I recorded 5 videos, edited the whole 9. So I am putting the time into those plans and trying to get them to a situation where I feel like they are worth the financial investment that you're putting forward. Have had some people reach out to me saying that they've had success. Someone won $5,000 last Monday using the tools that I put up for that showdown contest. So I do think there's some value in the tiers, or I just wouldn't do it. From a financial standpoint, from a time standpoint, it doesn't make any sense for me to spend 28 hours doing something I'm going to make $30 a month on. I could very easily go do something else and make a more intelligent financial decision, but this is something that I like doing. This is something that's I don't want to say a passion project, but it's something that I get enjoyment out of, and it takes my mind away from the stress of everyday life, right? And it allows me to teach something that I've been doing for years. So hopefully you guys get something out of the content. Hopefully you want to go check out the site. Again, there's plenty of articles up. And everything's on a 7-day trial. If you want to check it out, you don't like it, you can always cancel. I've had some folks do that already. But some people are sticking around, and some people are finding some use in the content. So if you want to go check that out, would really help me out and let me know I'm doing a decent job. The next thing I want to talk about before we jump into, before we get into that, I want to give you a rundown of the site here. So if you go over to Breaking Boards, which is up on your screen now, you'll see up top, which is kind of blocked off on your screen, you'll see plans and pricing. If you click on that, which we'll do here in just a moment, but before we do, if you scroll down, you'll see, a ton of articles up, right? So Monday night's attack plan is already up, but you see showdown content for last night, my War Games article, exactly how I approached the week 7 slate, betting article for the main slate, showdown breakdown. There's a ton of articles up on the site for each slate as we head into them. So just kind of scrolling down to give you guys an idea of some stuff that's available over on the site. And then if you click on pricing and plans, Here are the 3 tiers that are available. I mean, not trying to break the bank, but I do think that, again, for $30, I mean, for the amount of content that I'm putting in there for $30 a month, I really think it's worth it. If you're playing recreationally, $10 a month will get you by. It'll kind of give you an idea of who I'm leaning on each slate. You'll get the showdown breakdown and that kind of thing. So it kind of helps you put together lineups that can compete. $19.99 is pretty much everything you need for showdown. And then some of the stuff you need for main slate. $29.99 will get you everything you need. So that is the end of that shameless plug. And before we jump into the player by player breakdown, I want to talk about a couple of things, like I said, that transpired over the weekend. I knew that whenever I got into content creation, there would be trolls, right? There'd be people that would come in, and it's not unfamiliar to me in playing and being in the DFS landscape for some time. You get these guys that are overconfident in their abilities, or they have like an alpha type personality, right? They're never wrong, and anything you put up on the site is always going to be not the best, right? Like, I'm going to get stuff wrong. I'm going to have bad takes. I'm going to have great takes. I've been playing DFS since 2014, and I've sustained since 2014. I mean, it's over a decade. I've had success in this realm. If you have a take on one weekend and it happens to hit, or if you log on one week and I have a bad take and it doesn't hit, like, that's, your sample size is way too small to be having, these rash comments and explanations for how you're acting. Like, I'm sure you're just an absolute joy to be around all the time. But, when I put out this content, I do so in a manner that I genuinely like to see other people succeed. So I want to see the people who are using my content have success and be able to sustain and understand an approach that allows them to play the game of DFS long term. I don't want it to be something that you just log in and you click a button, or you view my channel and I give you a lineup and then you go play it. It's not sustainable. It's not something that's going to last long term. Secondly, someone did ask why, or gave the approach of me providing a lineup at the end of the video. I don't do that for a number of reasons. Okay. And I want to break down some of the reasons why I don't give individualized lineups. Okay. If you look at DFS, and I don't have this scripted, so this is strictly off the top of my head here. If you look at DFS as a manner of just simply constructing a lineup, you are not going to be profitable. You might put in $20 and maybe you win the Millionaire Maker, but you're going to be a fish long term. You're going to give a lot of that money back because you're going to think that you've got a process figured out that's not sustainable long term. So I don't give a lineup because whatever lineup that I built on a video, if I were to build one, it's strictly dependent upon a number of different factors on whether you should enter that lineup in any type of contest. So I don't want to build a lineup and have someone come on, look at the channel that doesn't know what in the world they're doing, sees that lineup and just enters, $100 worth of contest thinking that, oh, here's this guy on the internet that knows all. And it just doesn't work like that, right? If you're not looking at DFS from a numerical standpoint, from optimizing for variance, I mean, there's a number of different standpoints, and I'll talk about a few here in a second. If you're not looking at DFS in that manner, you're gonna lose. There's a lot of minds in this space that are way more brilliant than I am, that have, I don't want to say got this figured out, but they're doing pretty good for themselves. And if you continue to have this lackadaisical, I know ball, I know all type of attitude, you're not going to do well in this space. Over time, they're going to bleed you to death. Those sharks are going to eat you. So you need to start thinking in a way that maximizes your opportunity based on the other fish that are in the field and based on your ability to take advantage of the sharks and what they're doing based on the number of lineups that they have in a portfolio on a given slate. Taking those things into consideration before looking at your plays and before looking at the contest that you're joining, I think will help you out a ton. And a few other things to talk about when it comes to lineup building. There's more to it than just identifying who are the good plays. I feel like most people who have played DFS for a minute could come onto a slate and tell you who is a good play for that slate. But, field level game theory. Okay, so tonight's slate, for example, you have Detroit and Tampa Bay playing each other. That game has a high total. It's 12 points higher, 2 touchdowns higher than the other game. And those teams have very solid coaching staffs. And if you're Detroit, or especially if you're Tampa Bay, you can't take out the other team or beat the other team without having that Dan Campbell mindset of we're going to go on fourth down, right? Whoever wins this game, it might be the first to 30, it may be the first to 40, or it might come down to every possession is important. And they know that going in. So if it's 4th and 1, don't expect Detroit to line up for field goals much tonight. And the same thing for Tampa Bay. They're going to have to play smart, and they're going to have to put points on the board to take down the other one. They can't just go into this game and kick 4 field goals and walk out with a win. Odds are that's not the way tonight's game is going to play out. If you're Houston and Seattle, it might come down to 4 field goals. It might be the first to 15. Those defenses are real, and they're strong defenses, and it might just come down to whoever simply puts up 15, 20 points. First to 20 might be your winner. First to 15 might be your winner, and they know that. So maybe they do line up for field goals. That's a tough environment to play in Seattle. That's, that Houston defense is top 5 at every position on the slate. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Like, they defend everything well. So you're not going to have a lot of sustained drives against them. So maybe a few field goals is all you need because their offensive line is trash. So they're not going to put up a ton of points. Or they're not likely to put up a ton of points. They could. They did already this year. But you got to think about, that type of stuff when you're starting to build lineups. So you want to take into consideration game theory. It's not just simply picking a play. Next thing is combinatorial, if I can say it, optimization. Amon-Ra St. Brown tonight. Let's assume he's 60% owned, right? If you're building a 150 set and you have 60% Amon-Ra, right? You're matching the field, but every one of your 60, percent of lineups with Amon-Ra has Jared Goff and J-Mo with him. You can't finish first twice. You can. Wouldn't recommend it. Wouldn't recommend building that way. So if all your lineups look the same, sharks are just going to love that. You're going to set yourself up for failure. Unless you're some kind of top 1% player that is just busting on the site and you got this thing figured out, which a lot of people do not. You're going to set yourself up for failure. So you have to think about how your lineups look and how you're building for a portfolio, not just building a lineup. If you're putting in 3 lineups, you should still be thinking about your portfolio of lineups and not just one lineup. If you're putting in 1 lineup, you should think about how the field is thinking about their portfolios of lineups. You want to optimize for the position and for the contest you're entering. And we've talked about that on the video. And if you're not thinking about this high level stuff, man, long term, it's going to be a difficult ride. Next thing I want to talk about here is leverage weighting. Again, we just kind of talked about that. Like, how do you look at what the players around you are doing in the contest that you're entering, and how do you maximize going against the field, but going against the field in an intelligent manner? Don't just put in a lineup you think is different or that a sim tells you is different. Why is it different? How is it different in this contest? How is it going to be successful even though it's different in this contest? Not just, oh, well, this particular sim tool said this was a good lineup, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Next thing up, micro stacking or secondary stacking, right? After you've considered that and you find your QBs and your wide receivers that you want to play together, or pass catchers and tight end, whatever that number is, right? For tonight's games, let's assume you want to go golf JMO Laporta or golf Amon-Ra Laporta. Okay, well, if that's going to be a popular build, which it will be, how do you get different with your secondary stacks? Is there a stack from the Houston-Seattle game you can build? Is there a, if you play JSN, who's going to be popular, how can you get different on the other side? Is it running it back with like a Harrison Bryant or someone of that nature that makes your lineup different, but also simultaneously correlated in a way that could be intelligent depending on the contest that you're entering? We've already talked about contest-dependent optimization. Optimize your lineup to fit the contest that you're entering. Don't just enter a bunch of contests without a plan. It's not going to work. Not until you get your process down and have an idea of what you're doing. If you're using sims, you can't just go in, create simulated lineups, get the highest rated sim ROI lineups and plug and play. You can, but I mean, the optimization for that, it's going to tend to lean toward specific, especially on the main slate, it's going to lean towards specific builds. Your ownership percentage is going to be more indicative of what comes out of those versus your actual mean projection. And then just taking the overall texture of the slate, what are you trying to build? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you building one lineup for this slate? Are you building 3, 20, 150? Have a plan. So I don't give out individualized lineups because there's a lot that goes into those lineups. And it's not just as simple as you come over, check out the video. I mean, in a lot of these videos, I give a core. I give a very standardized core of how I'm going to be approaching each stack. And I want you to be able to put your own stamp on it. I want you to have that individualized aspect of building your own lineup. It should be personalized. If we're in there building the same lineups, it would be very unintelligent to enter those same lineups into the same contest because we're just going to dupe each other. We're going to steal some of our ROI, and I don't want to do that. So I want you to be able to formulate your own thoughts and enter your own lineups based on what you believe is the appropriate way to approach each slate. So that is why I do not put out individualized lineups at the end of the video. So I hope that answers the question that the person, and I mean, it was a great question. So I'm not upset, at that individual and the comments about the trolls and stuff like that was not aimed at that person. It was more of I wanted to address the question in an appropriate manner and give it the actual attention that it needs. So that is why I do not put out individualized lineups. But thank you for sticking this far throughout the video. Hopefully you got something out of that. If you did, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I do cover a lot of NFL content on the channel. Again, scan the QR code if you want to go check out the site and check out some plans over there and get some additional content. It would really help me out a ton. Hopefully trying to get that off the ground as well. And without further ado, let's jump into the player-by-player breakdown for Monday night's 2-game slate over on DraftKings. Now, typically we go team by team and player by player, position by position, talking about a slate like this. What I want to do in this one is I want to talk about just an overall sense of what I'm seeing. Again, if you want to check out the article on the site, go check that out if you want my actual thoughts on both these games. But from my perspective, from a QB position and how I'm looking at this, I view this Houston-Seattle game, and I mean, it looks this way on paper, as projected 12 points less or 2 touchdowns less than the other game. But I view it as it's going to be very difficult for either one of these teams to put up a significant ceiling outcome against the other defense. Both those defenses are real, they're legit, and they are tough. So I'm going to look to either, if I build a 150 set, I'll have 5% of these quarterbacks. If I'm not building a 150 set, I'm completely fading the QB position in Seattle and Houston. And I'm going to look to get 50-50 ownership between Mayfield and Goff. So as we talk about how that would look, we'll talk about the players that I would want to get alongside those guys here in just a second. So again, if I'm not building 150, I'm fading QB in the second game. I don't see an opportunity in Seattle, potential weather, tough environment. But neither one of those teams, if you look at how they want to play, neither one of those teams want to be passing the ball all over the field. In this Tampa Bay Detroit game in a dome, I mean, it's just going to be fireworks. It should be fireworks on Monday night. So I'm going to look to be over the field on both these plays here, even though Goff is going to be probably your highest owned player on the slate or play at the QB position on the slate. And Baker might be second, but I'm going to be over the field on the ownership because I think you're probably going to get 10, 15, 20%. They're going to look to be different in an unintelligent way, in my opinion, on Darnold and Stroud. Looking at the running back position, my favorite play maybe on the slate is Jahmyr Gibbs. I do think this is more of a Jahmyr Gibbs slate than it is a Dave Montgomery slate. If you think about the Tampa Bay defense with Vita Vea up front, pretty stout against the run, and it's going to be difficult for DeMont to get much traction against that tough defensive front of Tampa Bay, in my opinion. Could Montgomery have a great game? Absolutely. Will I mix and match him in? Absolutely. Am I afraid of playing him with Jahmyr Gibbs? Absolutely not. But I would prefer Jahmyr Gibbs. If we're looking at the running back position, he would be my favorite play on the slate. Next up, Rachaad White will be probably around 60% owned, my guess, by the field. And he's seen about 80% of the work for Tampa Bay since Bucky Irving went down. But, in my opinion, I think Rachaad might be a little bit over-owned in this spot, given the nature of how things are setting up. I'll probably be about the field on Rachaad White, but if I'm building 150 sets, I'm going to mix in some Sean Tucker, who's coming in, my guess, less than 5%. And I think he should be owned more appropriately to the snap share that he's seeing and the role that he's seeing. So I don't mind getting to Rachaad White. We'll have him around about the field. Kenneth Walker and Dave Montgomery, and even to a lesser extent, Woody Marks, are all going to be players that I mix and match in where salary appropriate. I don't see a ceiling outcome for Walker or Montgomery. Could it happen? Sure. Don't like the matchups for those guys, and I will look at them, again, relatively the same in that lineups where their salary fits in will be the lineups that they get into. Woody Marks and Charbonnet, I look at relatively the same as well, in that I think that they could have decent games, but I don't think either spot sets up for either one of these guys to have a huge game. So I would prefer Charbonnet to Kenneth Walker, but not by much. And then Woody Marks would be my favorite of the Houston backs, because I think if they have any success, it's going to be, a combination of running and passing. And you're not going to get a lot of pass catching from Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is someone that I will mix and match in around about the same as Sean Tucker. So if I'm looking at playing either one of these guys, it's probably going to be in that 5 to 8 to 10% range. Again, you want to be intelligent with how you're building those lineups. Let's say that Rachaad White is 60% owned, and you think that's appropriate, and you want to get double the field on Sean Tucker. 2 or 3% of those Sean Tucker lineups, he will be in there alone, and 2 or 3% of those Sean Tucker lineups, he will be in there with Rachaad White. That's pretty much where I would stop with the running back position. I don't think there's a lot past those guys that are viable for Monday night. Talking about the wide receiver spot here, Amon-Ra and JSN and Nico Collins, you don't need me to discuss those guys. Those guys are obvious plays. Get them in your lineup as you see fit. Ejbuka, I've seen some people thinking he's not going to play. I've seen some people thinking he's going to play. If he does play, it changes quite a bit here for Tampa Bay in that it lowers everyone's upside. But I do think that Edge Buka, in my opinion, will probably sit. If he does play, you can consider him as you normally would. I would probably dock his projection around 5-10%, and I would just view him as, standardized. He would play a condensed, route number. He's probably going to play 50-60% of snaps if he plays. So I would dock him 10-15%, 5-10-15%, something along those lines for Monday night. Mike Evans should be back tonight. If Edgebuka is out, that's going to bump up Mike Evans quite a bit. I do think Evans is going to see around 80% of the snap share regardless. But I would look to mix and match him in where salary appropriate. $6,500 is about where I feel like he should be priced. Jameson Williams here at $5K, one of my favorite plays on the slate, in that I don't think he's going to be owned as much as he should be. I imagine he comes in around 40%. I think he should be probably 60. J-Mo could catch one pass and absolutely break the slate. He's one of the players, or one of the few players on the slate, that could catch one ball for 90 yards and really put up a had to have it score. Him being priced $200 above Cooper Kupp is just disrespectful to J-Mo, in my opinion. Cooper Kupp is a fine play. Sterling Shepard, the same. I feel like both those guys are relatively the same kind of play. Tez Johnson is a lot dependent on Edgebuka. If Edgebuka sits, he should be looked at as a fine play. If Edgebuka plays, I'm probably not getting to a lot of Tez Johnson. I would prefer Xavier Hutchinson, Torrey Horton, Jaden Higgins, or Jalen Noel, or even Isaac Tesla, and to a lesser extent Jake Bobo, in those huge contests, or where you see fit in smaller contests where you're building appropriately. If I had to put Tez Johnson down in the lineup in order here, I would probably look at Xavier Hutchinson, Torrey Horton, Jalen Noel, Tez Johnson, Jaden Higgins, and Jake Bobo and Isaac Tesla about the same. So that would be how I would approach the wide receiver position. From a tight end perspective, we have really one play that sticks out, and the rest of them are just kind of mix and match plays. So mix and match guys, Kate Otten, Schultz, Barner, Arroyo, Saulbert, you can mix in if you like in huge contests. Harrison Bryant and Bates would all be mix and match guys in large field contests, or in contests where you built a lineup and that salary makes it into those 50K lineups you're looking to get in smaller field contests. Sam Laporta is going to be the most popular play on the slate, and probably for good reason. So I don't mind mixing him in. I'd probably be over the field on him. I imagine he probably comes in 50-60%. I do think he mixes very well if you are doing what I'm doing and you're fading the stacks of that second game there. So again, I'll be mixing in quite a bit of Sam Laporta, and those other guys will just fall in, get in where they fit in kind of situation. From a defensive perspective, I'm not going to do anything, but I'm going to make a projection on these plays, and whatever falls into my lineup is whatever I'm going to get. I'm not going to set any kind of rules as far as, no players against the defense or anything of that nature. What gets into the lineup will stay in the lineup. I appreciate you guys checking out the video. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you did, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for additional NFL content throughout the NFL season. I appreciate you guys sticking with me through the rant to start the video. I do think some of those things are overlooked by people who don't play a lot of DFS. So I really hope that someone got something out of the content there and can use that into their plan moving forward and how they're going to approach DFS. Again, I appreciate you guys being here. Hopefully you take down something large on Monday night. Please go check out the site. I do put a lot of work into it, and I do think it's worth the prices that are up on there. So it would help me out a ton if some of you would go check out the site. It would also help me out if you would subscribe to the YouTube channel, in that a lot of people, 90% or so, are watching the videos and not subscribing. It takes a lot of work to put these videos out. So I would really get something out of you guys letting me know in the comments. Am I doing a good job? Am I doing a terrible job? And should I hang it up? Something along those lines of just letting me know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. Again, I appreciate you being here. I hope you guys take down something large on Monday night, and we'll see you guys in the next video.